She bent over to pick up the notebook that had slipped from her bag. The moment felt strange. Almost like the air around her had shifted. She froze when she sensed him standing behind her. Not touching, just there. Close enough that she could feel his presence. "I think you drop this too often," he said softly. His voice was calm, but there was a warmth in it that made her chest tighten. She straightened slowly, her eyes meeting his. The connection hit her unexpectedly. She had worked with him for months, but somehow, this moment felt different. It wasn't about work, not really. It was about the closeness, the quiet tension in the room. She felt her heartbeat quicken and tried to steady her breath. "Thanks," she said, keeping her voice steady. But he wasn't listening for words. He was watching her. Observing her in a way that felt intimate and kind at the same time. She noticed the small details, the slight curve of his lips, the way his eyes softened when they met hers. "I brought this for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small envelope. She blinked, surprised. "For me?" she asked, curiosity mixing with something warmer she didn't want to name. He nodded, a small, shy smile forming on his lips. "Open it," he said simply. The tone was casual, but it carried a weight. She felt a strange flutter in her stomach as she slid the note out of the envelope. Her fingers trembled slightly. The note was handwritten. Just a few words, but they felt heavy and light at the same time. "I think about you more than I probably should." Her eyes widened. She looked at him quickly, trying to gauge his expression. There was no joke in his face. Only honesty. Only a quiet sincerity that made her chest feel tight. I didn't know," she whispered. Her voice sounded small, almost lost in the room. But he leaned slightly closer, closing some of the distance without invading her space. "I've wanted to tell you for a while," he admitted. His tone was soft, careful. It carried a mixture of courage and vulnerability. She felt something shift inside her. Something she hadn't noticed before. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. It felt like the pause before a storm, or maybe the calm after one. She wanted to ask him why now, why tell her at this exact moment, but the words got caught in her throat. The sunlight coming through the window lit up his face. She noticed how it highlighted his features, the small scars, the faint freckles across his nose, the gentle warmth in his eyes. He seemed different in this light. Real, human, close. Her mind raced. What did this mean for them? Could they really move beyond colleagues and friends? The thought made her stomach twist in nervous anticipation. She didn't want to rush. She wanted to savor this feeling, even if it scared her. "Do you feel the same?" she asked carefully. Her words came out almost as a whisper. She watched him closely, reading his expression like it held the answers to all her questions. He smiled. Not a big smile, but one that reached his eyes and made her heart beat faster. "I think I do," he said. The honesty in his voice made the world around them blur. All she could see was him. All she could hear was him. She felt a shiver run down her spine. Her palms were warm, almost sweaty. She had imagined this moment countless times, but reality was different. Stronger. More intense. More fragile at the same time. Then he reached out, just slightly, brushing his fingers against hers. The touch was light, electric, enough to send a jolt through her body. She didn't pull back. She didn't move forward. She just let the moment happen. They stayed like that for a few breaths, just looking at each other, feeling the silence between words. It was intimate and tender, yet charged with something unspoken. Something neither of them wanted to name yet. Suddenly, he stepped a little closer, careful, deliberate. "I've been waiting for the right time to tell you," he said softly. There was no pressure in his voice. Only truth. Only a quiet confession he had carried for too long. She swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry. Her mind was spinning with what ifs. Could this be the start of something new? Something more than friendship? Something real? The thought made her stomach flutter with nervous excitement. She opened her mouth to speak but didn't know where to start. Every word felt heavy and too important. How could she express what she felt without ruining the moment? She decided to wait, to let the silence speak as much as words could. The sunlight shifted, casting soft shadows across the room. For a moment, she felt like they were the only two people in the world. Nothing outside mattered. The past, the future, the noise of life, it all faded. Just when she felt she might lean in or step back, a faint creak of the door startled them. Both froze. Their eyes flicked toward the sound. A shadow appeared in the doorway. The sudden interruption made her pulse race again. His hand didn't leave hers, but he subtly moved to shield her from the unexpected intrusion. There was a protectiveness in his gesture that made her heart ache with warmth. She realized she had never felt this safe with anyone. Not in years. The shadow at the door lingered. They exchanged a glance, a silent question passing between them. Neither knew what the other was thinking exactly, but the tension in the room shifted. Something had changed. Something was about to change. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Her mind swirled with emotions. Confusion. Excitement. Anticipation. The closeness, the note, the soft touch of his hand, it all mixed into a heady cocktail of feelings she hadn't expected. He gave her a reassuring smile, sensing her inner storm. "We'll figure this out," he whispered, his voice barely audible but comforting. She nodded, though her heart was still racing. And just as she tried to gather herself, the shadow at the door moved, and a soft, uncertain voice called from the hallway. The moment they had shared hung in the air, delicate and fragile, now at the mercy of what would happen next. The voice at the door startled her again. She turned slightly, her hand still in his, unsure if she should answer. It was a soft knock, almost hesitant. "Is anyone there?" someone asked. He gently squeezed her hand. "I'll check," he whispered, moving toward the door while keeping an eye on her. She felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. Who could it be at this hour? He opened the door slowly. A colleague from the office stood there, looking flustered and holding a stack of papers. "I'm sorry to bother you," the colleague said, "but there's an urgent file you need to review tonight." He nodded and took the papers. "Thanks. I'll handle it," he said, closing the door behind him. Then he turned back to her. The tension in the room returned, only stronger this time. They had almost lost the moment, but now it felt even more precious. She let out a quiet breath. "That was close," she said softly, her voice trembling just a little. He smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "It's okay. We have our moment now," he said, moving closer again. She laughed softly, a little embarrassed by her racing heart. "I don't know why I feel like my heart is going to jump out of my chest," she admitted. He chuckled lightly. "Mine too," he whispered. "But I think that's a good thing." The room felt smaller now, cozier, as if it had shrunk to contain just the two of them. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so alive in someone's presence. Every glance, every word, every subtle movement seemed amplified. He tilted his head slightly, studying her face. "Do you remember the first time we met?" he asked. She nodded, smiling at the memory. "You were so focused on that project, you didn't notice anything else around you," he said. She laughed, remembering her intense focus and the serious notes she had taken that day. "And you just walked in, all calm and confident," she said. "I thought you were so unbothered by everything." "I guess I was trying to get your attention," he said, his voice teasing but soft. "And now I have it." She felt a flutter in her chest. It was impossible to ignore the meaning behind his words. They stood in silence for a moment, letting the warmth of their shared space fill the air. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't rushed. It was a gentle pause, full of possibility. She felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. He leaned slightly closer, and she caught her breath. The proximity made her aware of every detail, his scent, the way his eyes held hers, the quiet intensity of his presence. She felt both nervous and comforted at the same time. "I've wanted to do this for a long time," he said softly. She waited, unsure what he meant. Then he gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. The simple gesture made her heart flutter violently. Her fingers twitched, wanting to reach for him but not wanting to rush anything. Why now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Because I couldn't wait any longer, he admitted. I needed you to know how I feel. The honesty in his words made something inside her shift. She realized she had been waiting too, though she hadn't admitted it. The thought made her stomach twist with excitement and nervousness. Suddenly, the quiet was broken again, not by a knock, but by the soft sound of her own laughter escaping. She covered her mouth, embarrassed, but he just smiled. It's okay, he said. I like hearing it. She couldn't help it. She laughed again, and this time it was lighter, freer. The tension melted slightly, replaced by warmth and a delicate sense of joy. They were both caught in a moment neither wanted to end. He reached out, taking her hand fully in his. I've imagined this moment more times than I can count, he said. And yet, it feels different now. Better. Real. She nodded, feeling the same. Her heart was still racing. She wanted to ask him 1,000 questions, but she also wanted to stay silent, letting this connection speak for itself. The air between them felt alive, charged with unspoken words and gentle promises. Then he did something unexpected. He took a small step closer, enough to close the space but not overwhelm her. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a sense of comfort and longing all at once. You don't have to say anything, he whispered. Just feel it with me. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sensation wash over her. The nervousness, the excitement, the curiosity, it all blended into one perfect feeling. When she opened her eyes, he was smiling softly, a little shy but confident. It was a smile that said everything without a single word. She realized she had never seen him like this before, and it made her heart swell. And just as she leaned slightly toward him, hoping to bridge the distance, a sudden knock on the door startled them both. Her pulse jumped. The timing felt almost cruel. Who could it be this time? He instinctively stepped slightly in front of her, shielding her from the interruption. His hand brushed hers again, and the simple contact made her knees weak. She realized she was growing more aware of him with every passing second. The door opened just a crack, revealing someone from the office, clearly looking for help. But their presence felt distant, like it belonged to another world. For her, nothing else mattered except the man standing so close, the hand she held, and the moment they shared. As the person moved on, she let out a quiet sigh of relief. I think we survived the interruptions, she whispered, trying to smile. He chuckled, the sound low and warm. Just barely, he replied. The room fell quiet again, the tension returning but in a different way, gentle, tender, full of anticipation. They were both aware that something important had started tonight, something that could change everything. And as their eyes met, she realized she was ready for it. Ready to see where this connection could lead, ready to trust in the moment, ready to feel. But before she could speak or move, a soft creak from the hallway made her freeze. Someone was approaching again, closer this time. Their intimate moment hung by a thread, fragile and precious, waiting to see what would happen next. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. Their soft echo made the room feel smaller, tighter, more intimate. She held her breath, her hand still in his. He didn't let go either. A shadow appeared again, this time larger, moving slightly. Her heart raced. She didn't want the moment to be broken. He leaned closer, whispering, "Stay calm. It's fine." The door opened slowly, and a familiar face peeked in. It was the office manager, holding a file folder. "Sorry to interrupt," she said nervously. "I just need a signature on this by tonight." He nodded politely. "Of course. I'll sign it," he said. The manager stepped inside, completely unaware of the charged atmosphere in the room. She let out a small sigh, grateful for his calm presence. Once the manager left, closing the door quietly behind her, the room felt different. The tension that had built up returned, heavier now, but in a good way. They both knew what was happening between them was fragile, but exciting. He looked at her with a soft, almost shy smile. "We keep getting interrupted," he said lightly. But there was a spark in his eyes, a warmth that made her pulse quicken. She laughed softly. "I think the universe is trying to test us," she replied, smiling. The words felt lighter than she expected, but they carried truth. Every interruption made the moment feel even more precious. He took a step closer. "Then we'll make the most of it, no matter what," he said. The tone was gentle, protective, and caring. She felt herself leaning slightly toward him, drawn by the calm strength in his presence. Her mind was spinning. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt this alive. Every word, every glance, every brush of their hands felt electric. Yet there was something soft, tender, almost fragile about it. "I've never felt this way before," she whispered, almost to herself. His eyes softened. "Neither have I," he admitted quietly. The honesty in his voice made her chest tighten. They moved closer, slowly, each action deliberate, careful. She felt his hand lightly touch hers again. The simple gesture made her knees weak. She realized she didn't want to pull away. Not now. Not ever. The sunlight shifted, casting a golden glow across the room. It highlighted the warmth in his eyes, the sincerity in his smile, and the gentle way he looked at her. She felt a mixture of excitement and calm wash over her. "I've imagined this moment countless times," he said softly, his voice low. "And it's even better than I hoped." She smiled, feeling the same. Every expectation she had melted away in the reality of this moment. They laughed softly together, a light sound that felt freeing. The room seemed to hold them, protecting the delicate space they shared. Her heart raced, but it wasn't panic. It was anticipation, hope, and joy all wrapped together. He leaned slightly closer. She could feel his breath on her cheek. Her own breathing quickened. The world outside felt distant, irrelevant. All that mattered was him, her, and the quiet energy between them. "I think we're too close," she said softly, though she didn't step back. Her voice was teasing, but her eyes betrayed her nervousness. He chuckled, the sound deep and comforting. "I think we're exactly where we need to be," he replied. She smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't expected. His words, his presence, the gentle way he looked at her, it all made her feel safe and alive at the same time. Then, suddenly, her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and her heart sank slightly. It was a message from her sister, reminding her of an early appointment tomorrow. She sighed quietly, the moment threatened by the pull of responsibilities. He noticed her sigh. "We'll pick up where we left off," he said softly, squeezing her hand reassuringly. She nodded, grateful for the reassurance, but a small part of her wished they could freeze this moment forever. They stood together in silence, feeling the warmth of their shared connection. No words were needed. The gentle touch of their hands, the way their eyes met, and the unspoken understanding between them said more than any words ever could. And just as she thought they could finally relax, a knock came at the door again. Her heart jumped. This moment, so tender and fragile, was being tested. Would they survive the next interruption, or would it change everything? The knock was soft but persistent. She froze, her heart pounding. He still held her hand, steadying her with a small squeeze. "I'll check," he whispered. He opened the door carefully. This time, it was a delivery person with a package. "Delivery for this room," they said politely. He signed quickly, smiling at her as he handed it over. Once the door closed, the room felt quiet again. The interruptions were over for now, but the tension between them hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown. The stolen moments felt even more precious. She laughed softly, leaning against the table. "I feel like we're living in a movie," she whispered. He smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then let's enjoy our scene," he said. Her heart fluttered at the words. Every gesture, every glance, every soft tone from him made her feel light and alive. She realized how much she had wanted this, wanted him, wanted the closeness, the warmth. "I've never felt so seen before," she admitted, her voice small but honest. He gave her a soft smile. "You've always been special. I just never said it aloud." The honesty hung between them like a delicate thread. She felt herself leaning in, drawn to him, but she hesitated. She wanted this moment to be right, to feel real and lasting. He sensed her hesitation. "It's okay," he said softly. "We don't have to rush. Just being here with you is enough." She nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and longing. They stood close, their hands barely touching now, sharing a quiet energy. The sunlight fell across the room, highlighting the warmth in his eyes. She wanted to stay in this moment forever, but reality tugged gently at her. Her phone buzzed again, and she glanced at it. A reminder about a morning meeting popped up. She sighed quietly, the moment threatened again by obligations. He noticed and squeezed her hand, a silent promise that this wasn't over. "You know," he said, leaning slightly closer, "even a few minutes like this feels like hours when I'm with you." Her chest tightened. She felt the same way, more than she could express. She looked at him, studying the small details, the curve of his lips, the warmth in his eyes, the gentle confidence in his posture. Every little thing drew her in further. "I think I've been waiting for this longer than I realized," she admitted softly. His smile widened, but it was gentle, careful, as if he didn't want to rush her. "You don't have to say anything more," he whispered. "Just let me be here with you. That's enough." She felt a wave of emotion. Being seen, understood, and cared for by him was more than she had expected. The room was quiet except for their soft breaths. Every second stretched, filled with emotion and possibility. She realized she didn't want to break the silence, didn't want to ruin the delicate balance they had found. He leaned a little closer. She felt his warmth and her heart skipped. "I want you to know," he said, "that I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever." The words hit her softly, but deeply. She blinked, holding back the emotions that threatened to spill over. "I believe you," she whispered. Her voice was shaky, but honest. The sincerity in his eyes reassured her. They stood like that for a few moments, letting the quiet speak louder than words ever could. Every glance, every touch, every small smile conveyed more than any conversation could. Then, unexpectedly, a soft laugh escaped her lips. She covered her mouth, embarrassed, but he only smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I like hearing that," he said softly. She felt lighter, freer. The nervousness and anticipation mingled into joy and comfort. It was rare to feel so completely understood, so completely at ease, with someone else. He took her hand again, gently, letting her know he was there. "We'll figure out the rest together," he whispered. She nodded, grateful for the calm and certainty he gave her. But just as they leaned slightly toward each other, the phone buzzed again. This time it was different, a message she hadn't expected. She read it quickly and froze, her eyes widening. The message was simple but urgent. It threatened to pull her away from the warmth of the moment, from the connection that had grown so quickly, so naturally. Her heart raced as she looked up at him. He noticed immediately. "Is everything okay?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then shook her head slightly. "I don't know. I might have to leave soon," she whispered. The words felt heavy, yet impossible to ignore. He didn't panic. He squeezed her hand reassuringly, close enough to let her feel the steady calm radiating from him. "Then we'll make the most of the time we have," he said softly. She nodded, letting herself lean into him for a moment. The closeness, the warmth, the connection, it all felt real, more real than anything she had experienced in years. The room seemed to hold them, protecting the fragile bubble they had created. Outside obligations, interruptions, and responsibilities existed, but for these few minutes, they belonged only to each other. And just as she began to feel that peace, a faint sound at the window drew her attention. She turned slowly, heart pounding, unsure if it was important or if it would shatter the fragile moment entirely. The soft sound at the window made her start. He gently guided her behind him, shielding her just enough to keep the moment intact. She felt the tension and anticipation mingle, her heart racing in a way that felt familiar and new at the same time. He looked at her with a calm intensity. "No matter what happens," he whispered, "we'll face it together." She felt a warmth spread through her chest. Those words carried more weight than any grand gesture ever could. She took a deep breath, realizing how much she trusted him already. His hand still held hers, steady and comforting, like an anchor in the storm of emotions swirling inside her. The window opened slightly, letting in the cool evening breeze. It made the room feel alive, full of movement, full of possibilities. She felt like the world outside had paused, leaving only the two of them in a suspended, perfect moment. "I don't want this to end," she admitted softly. Her voice shook slightly, but there was honesty in every word. He smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile that made her chest swell. "It doesn't have to," he said. His hand brushed hers again, light and deliberate. "We can make it last. One moment at a time. No rush. Just us." She nodded, letting the comfort and promise of his words settle over her like a soft blanket. The note he had given her earlier came to mind. "I think about you more than I probably should." She realized how true it was, not just for him, but for her too. She had thought of him often, imagined this closeness, wondered about the what ifs. He stepped a little closer, enough that she could feel his warmth fully. She didn't pull away. She wanted this, to feel safe, seen, and cherished. He looked at her with that same quiet intensity, eyes soft but unwavering. "I'm glad you're here," he whispered. "Right now, in this moment, it feels like everything makes sense." She smiled, a real, unguarded smile, feeling the weight of worry and hesitation lift slightly. They laughed softly together, the sound light and freeing. The air between them felt charged with a gentle energy, full of warmth and possibility. Every glance, every subtle touch, every shared smile deepened the bond that had grown so quickly. "I think," she began, then hesitated, unsure how to voice the flood of emotions inside her. He waited patiently, letting her find her words in her own time. "I think I've been waiting for this, waiting for you," she said finally. Her voice was soft, honest, and full of hope. His smile widened, but he didn't say a word. He just let the statement settle, letting the moment speak for itself. He reached out, lightly brushing her cheek with his fingers. The simple touch was electric, yet tender. She felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of relief, joy, and longing. It was a feeling she wanted to hold on to forever. "We have time," he said softly. "Time to learn, time to grow, time to be together. We don't need to rush." She nodded, feeling her heart align with his words. The moment was theirs, fragile yet perfect. The room seemed to hum softly around them, as if the universe had paused to let them savor this. Outside, the city moved on, but inside, they were suspended in a bubble of warmth, safety, and promise. They stood in quiet understanding for a while, hands still linked, sharing the peace of just being together. No words were necessary. The connection, the energy, the subtle unspoken feelings were enough. Then, with a soft smile, he whispered, "Let's make a promise. To be honest. To be patient. To be here for each other, no matter what comes." She looked into his eyes, seeing sincerity, warmth, and devotion. "I promise," she replied, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. The word felt weighty yet light, full of hope and certainty. He leaned just slightly closer, the air between them electric with unspoken emotion. "Me too," he said softly. The moment was gentle, tender, full of love that needed no grand gestures, no rush, just presence. The evening sunlight shifted again, casting soft golden rays across the room. It highlighted their intertwined hands, their close proximity, and the quiet smile they shared. The world outside was real, demanding, and busy, but for them, time had paused. They stayed like that, letting the quiet intimacy stretch, savoring every heartbeat, every glance, every gentle movement. It was the kind of moment that stays with you forever, even when life moves forward. And as the sun dipped lower, bathing the room in soft twilight, she realized that everything had changed. The nervousness, the uncertainty, the fleeting moments, they had all led to this. A connection deep and real, fragile and beautiful, just beginning. No interruptions. No distractions. Just them. And for the first time in a long time, she felt completely, entirely at peace.